Blackpink needs a revolution. So, Blackpink is going on tour soon, but there's no comeback, no new music, just YG randomly announcing a world tour out of nowhere. YG announced the tour named Deadline at the last minute, making it obvious it was an afterthought, which is already a bit concerning. As someone who used to be an active Blink since before they even debuted in 2016, and who's still been following their careers, I'm still a fan as of now, but this doesn't feel like something to celebrate. Even when it was first announced last year, and now with where the group stands today, the timing feels weird. If you've actually been paying attention to their solo careers, their live performances, the awkward group dynamics lately, then you already know something isn't clicking anymore. The image of Blackpink as a cohesive group. This tight unit with matching aesthetics, that cool edge YG used to push so hard, has been fading for a while. And now, it honestly feels like we're watching 4 different celebrities pretending they're still in a group just long enough to fulfill their contract. And let's not forget, 3 out of 4 of them were exposed for saying the N-word in pre-debut videos that were leaked by that infamous hacker months ago, but have not apologized or acknowledged it, at least as of now. Yet here the same members are, all heavily promoting in the West, and even attending things like the Met Gala when it was themed around celebrating Black culture, like, huh? So in this video, I'm not going to explain who they are. This is for the fans who've followed them for years and can admit something feels off. This video is for the Blinks who still care, but aren't afraid to be honest. Let's talk about what's really going on. BLACKPINK Post-YG. Ever since they took a step back from YG, it's become painfully clear just how much of Blackpink's image was being curated and held together by that company. I'm not going to sit here and defend YG's lack of promotion, but at least there was a consistent vibe, a brand, a group identity. That's how it is when you're under a huge label. Now that they've stepped out on their own, and most of the members are promoting internationally, the masks are now off. Jennie's out here promoting her solo music, but acting like a European/American girl. Lisa has her solo music and dating into a billionaire family and suddenly getting A-list gigs. Rosé is still floating around with her guitar in boring YSL with not much else going on. And Jisoo, well, she's the only one who stayed in South Korea, trying the solo idol actress route, but all of her roles end in controversy and most still don't see her skills up to par. Without YG filtering and packaging them as Blackpink, you can really see the cracks. The differences. The fact that they're all on completely different pages now. And that's the thing, Blackpink doesn't feel like a group anymore. There's no real cohesion, no shared vision, no music to bring them back into sync. It's been years since their last real comeback, and yet here we are, suddenly gearing up for a world tour. Like, for what? There's no new album, no single, not even a teaser. It just feels like a desperate cash grab because YG is currently flopping hard, nothing against Baby Monster, even 2NE1 is back united and on tour. 2NE1 being on tour makes more sense because they are a legacy group at this point who many would want to see. It's been years since YG made them disband, but they're back together with the original lineup, and their connection to each other has always seemed more genuine compared to other groups. Blackpink used to be closer or appeared to be in the first few years, now you can tell they've outgrown Blackpink at this point. All groups are not meant to stay together forever and that's fine, but if they're coming back together at this point in their careers, it has to make sense and should be starting off on a better foot. Their last tour Born Pink already exposed how incohesive they were in their performing skills, so there should be changes made if they don't want this next tour to be a train wreck. Each member really needs to put in the work individually, because if they're going to come back together as Blackpink, I don't think people will give them a pass much longer, especially if this tour ends up being a mess. Individual member deep dive, most to least controversial. Let's start with easily the most controversial member, Lisa. Lisa's always walked a fine line with her image. Since debut, she's leaned heavily into aesthetics that borrow from Black culture, from using a black accent, to rapping about money and flexing, to relying on streetwear and baddie looks that feel disconnected from her actual personality. And sure, under YG, it was still superficial, but at least there was some structure to it because that's the company's vibe in general. She was the dancer of Blackpink. Her charisma on stage was the focus. The branding may not have been deep, but it made sense. The real shift started with her performance at the Crazy Horse in France and when her association with the Arnault family, the LVMH empire, began to surface, and then suddenly she's dating Frédéric Arnault. What followed was an immediate spike in high-profile opportunities, Victoria's Secret, the Oscars, the White Lotus, plus appearances that feel more like PR placements than a natural career progression. For many fans, it just felt inorganic. Like all these gigs were gifted because of who she's dating, not because of artistic growth or demand despite BLACKPINK having international success. Then there's her new project, Alter Ego, a concept that was hyped as her creative rebirth, but the execution felt messy. The branding was inconsistent, and the rollout didn't offer any real clarity about who Lisa is as an artist. Also, we can't forget about those cringy Wattpad-ass alter ego descriptions. Instead of a sharp reinvention, it just further diluted her identity. That's why lately, she's coming off more and more superficial and disconnected from her fan base. There's a feeling that she's performing for rooms full of elites and relying too much on famous collabs, not supporters who've been with her since day one or showing true artistic growth or maturity. And let's not ignore the fact that the critiques around her vocals haven't gone away. Lisa's still regularly accused of lip-syncing, and while her dancing is unmatched, her singing hasn't evolved much, which is a problem when you're branding yourself as a solo act. International fans are also increasingly put off by her habit of acting overly cutesy or childish during interviews, a stark contrast to her more confident stage persona. And if we're talking about controversies, it's impossible to ignore the 2025 Met Gala moment. Lisa has never apologized for saying the N-word in that pre-debut video that was leaked a few months ago, but then had the nerve to show up to a black-themed Met Gala, the very group BLACKPINK has taken inspiration from. She showed up in underwear with faces printed right front on her center. While it turned out not to be Rosa Parks on the front of her underwear, the backlash was still huge. It came across as tasteless and disrespectful, especially for an event themed around honoring Black culture. It does not matter to me that she was styled by a legendary Black artist like Pharrell. They could have chose something better for a theme like this. Bad enough she showed up wearing French/non-Black designer clothes. Louis Vuitton. It's like they set her up to fail on purpose. Fans noticed her lack of response, and people are starting to question just how much accountability these girls are ever going to take. At the end of the day, Lisa is a star. She has stage presence and potential, and there's clearly demand for her. But right now, her image feels like it's being propped up by money and PR, not by artistry. If she's going to be part of BLACKPINK again, especially with a new world tour, she needs to recalibrate. I do not expect her to sing live, but I hope she learns to at least lip-sync better, strip back the noise, get back to what she's good at, and earn the stage again. Next member is Jennie. The lazy dancer narrative has followed her since 2017. People have been frustrated with her inconsistency on stage. Some days she's giving 100%, other times she seems checked out. Fans have debated whether it's due to health issues or just a lack of interest. But regardless, it's obvious she has the skill. She could be so much better with consistency and effort. And honestly, this shift in her vibe felt like it really started after her appearance in The Idol. Her image now feels split in two. When she's in the West, especially LA or Paris, she plays into the cool European/American it girl aesthetic, Lily Rose Depp, Charli XCX's Brat era, all that. No pants, that effortless rave after party look that's supposed to read chic. But when she's in Korea, she snaps right back into soft, quiet idol mode, polite, reserved aegyo when needed, just like Lisa. The switch is so drastic it feels performative. Almost like code switching for different markets, which just makes it hard to tell who the real Jennie is. Her solo work has been a mixed bag. Musically, her solo album is probably the strongest and most cohesive out of all the BLACKPINK members. It's the only album out of all the members I actually go back to. But when it came to live performances, or even the collaborations, she often got overshadowed. In almost every collab, the other artist outshined her, whether vocally, energy-wise, or presence. The one exception was Love Hangover with Dominic Fike, in my opinion. That worked because it was low-key, matched her energy, and their tones blended well. She actually shines most when she's on her own, not stacked against artists with stronger technical skills. In BLACKPINK, she stood out more because everyone was generally on the same level. The 2025 Met Gala didn't help her case either. Like Lisa, she attended an event themed around Black dandyism, even though she's also never addressed her past use of the N-word. She wore Chanel, of course, which was on theme in a surface-level way, but it still felt tone-deaf considering Chanel's problematic historical affiliations. No one's asking Jennie to stop being the Chanel girl, but some self-awareness wouldn't hurt. Jennie seems like she still cares about music the most, but her inconsistency with performing sometimes throws people off and can make it difficult to watch live because you don't know which Jennie you're gonna get. It seems as though sometimes she would rather look cool on stage than put in a lot of effort. Maybe a part of me is still salty from buying tickets to the Ruby experience in Los Angeles, but was denied entry with at least 50+ people because we bought tickets off of sites that weren't Ticketmaster, so many of those tickets sadly ended up being cancelled right before the event. It was a whole thing I'm shocked more people didn't talk about because this happened to a lot of people. May or may not will not make a video on this another time, but maybe it's a good thing I ended up getting a refund on my tickets and denied entry, because when I saw the clips of her performing online at that show, the energy was lackluster anyways. Hopefully she gets her energy up for this upcoming tour, because her performance at Coachella was, well, let's just say, in typical Jennie fashion, would sometimes give enough but mostly just said, fuck it, let me just get my check. If she doesn't show the Jennie who made Blink's fall in love back in the debut days, when she showed she cared for this next tour, I don't think people will put up with it much longer. Now on to Rosé. Post-YG, Rosé's emotional artist/girl next door image has fallen flat. That persona worked under YG because the branding helped carry it, but now it feels unconvincing and kind of stale. She went blonde when she came to the US, which was cute for a few months, but now it's obviously damaging her hair and does nothing for her anymore. There's been no compelling evolution in her music, style, or public presence. She just seems stuck. Artistically, she seems the most checked out. Compared to Lisa and Jennie, who at least have a bit more drive, even if flawed, Rosé feels like she's fading into the background. Her soft, melancholic vibe only works if it's backed by strong music or intentional aesthetic choices, and right now, there's not much of either. It's unclear whether she's always been this boring and we just didn't notice because the group helped balance her out, or if she's lost her passion over time. The Bruno Mars collab was her biggest solo moment, but it fizzled fast. When the song dropped, it was everywhere for a moment, and it had potential because their voices do pair well. Rosé's vocal tone is strong, even if her technique is lacking, thanks YG, and she can hold her own next to someone like Bruno, which not many artists, even outside of BLACKPINK, can say. But the song aged quickly, and more importantly, she didn't use the momentum to do anything. No follow-up project, no wave of press, it was just quiet. It made people wonder, does she want to be visible, or is she trying to pivot into an indie, low-key space? Either way, it's not working without more clarity or intent. The 2025 Met Gala was another awkward moment. Like Jennie and Lisa, she was individually invited to the Met Gala themed around Black culture, despite never addressing her own N-word controversy from a newly leaked pre-debut video. She showed up in her usual YSL, another French luxury house, wearing a plain black suit. It was technically on theme, but safe to the point of looking like she didn't want to be there. Whether it was guilt, discomfort, or just not being in the mood, it was obvious something was off. She didn't sell the look, the energy, or the presence. In general, her presence has slowed to a crawl. Few updates, minimal promotion, lackluster performances, and no real fashion progression. Her brand feels frozen in time, and unless she makes a shift, even just a subtle one, she risks fading out entirely. It's disappointing, because she still has the potential and talent. She just needs to care again. Hopefully, this tour reignites something in her. Last member is Jisoo, the least controversial member. Also the only member not caught saying the N-word. That alone sets her apart from the rest of the group in terms of public perception. While she hasn't had a scandal-free career, she's definitely the least controversial, which has helped her maintain a more neutral reputation. Her solo debut, Flower, matched her image and tone well. It was soft, elegant, and very her. On the other hand, her follow-up track, Earthquake, didn't work. It was outside her vocal range and didn't suit her strengths. She did look good, and I like that she tried to experiment, but it felt like the wrong direction musically, especially when her biggest issue has always been vocal delivery. Vocals are still underwhelming, even if occasionally more stable than the others. She struggles with power and control live, which holds her back from standing out in performances. She has improved slightly over time, but overall she remains the least vocally dynamic member of the group. Her acting career is still a work in progress. While she got attention for her lead role in Snowdrop, the show itself stirred controversy due to its historical narrative, and her acting was widely criticized as flat. She's improved slightly, as seen in Utopia, and it's encouraging that people are starting to recognize some growth. Still, she's not out of the idol actor stereotype yet, and she'll need a truly strong performance to break it. She lacks a strong personal brand or identity, though not particularly boring in my opinion. Under YG, she was seen as the mature, calm, and elegant one, the visual, and the most traditionally Korean member. That role made sense, especially as a bridge to the Korean domestic audience, while the others were more globally positioned. But now, outside of her Dior campaigns or brand deals, she doesn't have a clear direction or niche, in music, fashion, or acting. Least active in the Western market, and least problematic because of it. She's stayed rooted in Korea, which fits her background as the only member born and raised there. This more domestic focus has helped her avoid a lot of the backlash the others have faced, and while it makes her less talked about globally, it also means less controversy. Expectations are low but manageable. As long as she can keep up with the tour, putting in visible effort and blending well with the group, she'll be fine. She doesn't need to stand out to be successful, just consistent and cohesive. If she continues improving bit by bit, she has the potential to carve out a quiet but respected space for herself. Problems and what needs to change. BLACKPINK announced a tour without any new music, no comeback, no singles, just dates. Naturally, fans were confused. It's hard to get excited when the last tour already showed major cracks, heavy lip syncing, low energy, and awkward transitions. This new tour announcement just makes it more obvious, they're on completely different paths now. It doesn't feel like a group comeback, it feels like a loosely coordinated reunion show. Fans are starting to worry, there's no real promotion, no rehearsals being shown, and barely any interaction between the members. Instead of a united front, it feels more like four soloists doing BLACKPINK on the side. It raises the bigger question, are we witnessing the end of BLACKPINK as a real group? Or is this just a nostalgia-fueled cash grab? If it's the latter, then at the very least, the group owes fans a proper goodbye, not just a glorified business transaction. If it's not, then some serious work needs to be done. That means reconnecting as a group. Rehearsing together, rebuilding chemistry, and showing that they still care about performing as a unit. Improving live vocals and stage presence, fans deserve more than backing tracks and checked out energy, or at the least, better lip syncing. Owning up to past mistakes, like the N-word incidents, if they want to maintain credibility in global markets, especially in the West. Being clear about their identity, is BLACKPINK still a group or just a brand they dust off when convenient? And YG needs to actually invest in promotion if they expect people to show up and spend money. Right now, the tour feels directionless. But it doesn't have to end that way. If this is the final chapter, they still have time to make it meaningful. At the end of the day, BLACKPINK's legacy is already cemented into K-pop history, but how they choose to close this chapter still matters. Fans have stood by them through the highs and lows, and they deserve more than silence or half-effort. Whether this is a new beginning or the final bow, the group has one last chance to remind the world why they mattered in the first place. But that takes honesty, growth, and a real sense of purpose. Otherwise, this tour might be remembered more for what it lacked than what it delivered.